Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about possibly the least sexy topic you can think about. I bet you probably haven't read any articles about it lately in the news, and maybe you don't even talk about your friends with it. You probably haven't even mentioned it to your significant other. But today, it deserves a few minutes of your time. Any guesses? I'm talking about diarrhea. Whether we care to admit it or not, we've all had it sometime or another. I've got a couple of pretty epic stories myself. Yet we're all probably laughing now because maybe it was a little traumatic at the time, but we're all still in this audience. We've survived. But if this talk were being held in India or Ethiopia or several other countries, you probably wouldn't be laughing now, because some of you would have had children who died because of it. Did you know that diarrhea is actually the second leading cause of death for children under 5 worldwide? It kills over 1 million children each year. That's 1 every 30 seconds, or 480 children who will have died from now until this conference is over. Diarrhea is responsible for 1 out of every 9 child deaths. It kills more children than AIDS, measles, and malaria combined. 75% of these deaths happen in the 15 poorest countries, places like Nigeria and Pakistan. In these countries, diarrhea is no laughing matter. And do you know how we can prevent so many of these deaths? I promise you, the answer is simple. I'm not a doctor. It's something that every one of you in this room does, or at least I hope you do, several times a day. Any guesses? Exactly, hand washing. It's a low-cost, low-technology solution, and it encourages children to take their health into their own hands. And when it comes to cost, there is no more cost-effective way to save lives. A $3.35 investment in hand washing has the same impact as an $11 investment in toilet construction, a $200 investment in clean water initiatives, and an investment of thousands of dollars in immunizations. It's simply the most bang for your buck. Now I'm sure you're thinking, okay, Erin, great, I get it. We should all be washing our hands, and granted, your first grade teacher probably told you this, and you're right, and you should be. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is the fact that there are currently hundreds of millions of people in this world who don't have access to soap and have never used it before. And yes, I'm serious, this isn't a joke. Unilever estimates there are 70 million people in India alone who've never used soap. Last year, I was working for an international nonprofit in a village of refugees in the Thai-Burma border. Most of the inhabitants were rice farming refugees just living on less than a few dollars a day. One day, while I was working at a school in the village, I went to the bathroom, notice the theme of my talk here, and when I went to wash my hands at the sink, I groped around and I was unable to locate the soap. So I pulled over a group of students next to me and I said, "Hey guys, you're all out of soap, where is it?" And their response, "What is soap?" I was so confused, and after far too long walking around with my hands extended like I was Frankenstein waiting to be appropriately washed, I realized something. They actually didn't know what soap was. Not believing that they were serious, I hopped into a pickup truck, literally the only car in town, and I drove an hour away to a village with a convenience store. I took $30 out of my pocket and bought out every single bar of soap on the shelves. I came back to the school armed with a giant bag of soap, and I lined up all the children, and I told them 30 seconds of good scrubbing, and make sure you get in between your fingers and underneath your nails too. I taught them how to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star so we could make sure that they spent enough time washing their hands. And now, it was their turn to try. But some were confused that the soap was slippery when wet, and some giggled as it fell through their hands, and others were just like spaced out, and they smacked their foreheads with it. Clearly, they hadn't been understanding my directions. And it was truly a scene, watching these children, some as old as 13, use soap and wash their hands for the very first time. My personal experience is just one example of a village that doesn't use soap. However, it illustrates the two most pressing issues going on here: a general lack of education about the benefits of hand washing and limited soap availability amongst the poorest populations. Most likely, the reason why you're all washing your hands in this audience isn't because of what I told you earlier. It's because you've been trained from a young age by society, by your parents, by your teachers, by your peers, that hand washing is critical, not only to your health, but to the health of everyone else in your community. And that being that guy that doesn't wash his hands after the bathroom is socially unacceptable and frankly kind of gross. But in these places, it is simply not the case. Other communities might know about soap and its benefits, but they lack the financial resources to purchase it. In developing countries, soap is actually quite cheap, usually just less than $1 a bar. But think of those people who are living on less than $2 a day. All of their income is spent immediately on food and water. Soap is something they would literally have to save up months for. It blew my mind to think that people were currently living their lives without something I took for granted every single day of mine. This feeling inspired me to take action. But first, let me ask you a question. Do you remember the last time you stayed at a hotel? Did you use the bar of soap that they gave you once or twice to wash your hands, maybe take a shower, and then you came back the next afternoon and noticed that they had replaced that bar with a new bar of soap? Did you ever wonder where that old bar went? Well, wonder no more. I'm here up on the stage to tell you. The trash. Yes, 4.6 million hotel rooms in the US, 2.6 million of which use bar soap. And that's 2.6 million bars of soap in landfills every single day. In a year, that amounts to 1 billion bars. And that's just the US. Imagine how high the numbers are when you factor in the rest of the countries in this world. But they don't have to be there. Soap is actually surprisingly easy to recycle. In fact, it's even easier than paper, plastic, metal, the things that we're currently recycling now. All you need is 3 things: a potato peeler, a bleach solution, and a crock pot. The potato peeler surface cleans the soap, taking off any part of the soap that has been in contact with the skin. The bleach solution safely sanitizes the soap, so it will not be able to transmit disease. And the crock pot melts the soap so you can remold it. The process is so easy and so simple that it can be done in any one of your kitchens. Even in my kitchen in New York, that's the size of a closet, trust me. So, despite the idea of soap recycling being quite new, there are already 3 organizations that are recycling soap internationally, 2 in the US and 1 in Hong Kong. They take soap from developed countries, recycle it, and ship it to developing ones. However, I found out that these models just weren't sustainable. Locals who receive soap donations are going to be forever reliant on outside sources for their soap. Plus, international shipping costs are huge. On this note, I was inspired to found Sundara. We're an organization that funds hygiene education and infrastructure for children in underserved areas with a mission to localize the soap recycling process. We're currently running initiatives in Haiti, Ghana, and India. We train local women to recycle soap from hotels nearby their communities. They distribute the bars free of charge to schools, community centers, and homes while teaching about soap and its importance. And in the process, they are able to become local hygiene ambassadors. We use women because their impact is the widest. They're usually the caretakers of young children, and thus, clean hands become even more necessary. Plus, they can easily monitor their children's habits and encourage healthy behaviors, thereby reducing the number of preventable hygiene-related deaths in their communities. The benefits are immense. We fix the lack of knowledge about the benefits of hand washing. We create a sustainable source of soap for these communities. We reduce transportation costs and cut down on the waste in landfills. And as we grow, we increase economic opportunity for women in impoverished areas. It's a system where, truly, everybody wins. There is no reason why, while we're conducting triple bypass surgery in this country, hundreds of millions of people go without knowledge of or access to the simplest medicine on earth. There's no reason why millions of children should be dying after something you or I get after a heavy dose of street food and then laugh about. 1 million dead children is 1 million stories that will never be written. Maybe one of these children would have been the next Bill Gates, the next Mother Teresa, heck, maybe even the next Michael Jackson. But we'll never know, because a preventable disease swept them from this earth. And I happen to think that is completely unjust. That is why I'm working to provide soap and education to the world's most vulnerable communities. In so many places around the world, personal hygiene is a privilege, but I believe that no matter where you live, personal hygiene is a right. Hopefully, one day in the not too distant future, that will ring true, and preventable deaths will be a thing of the past. And if that is the case, then I promise that one day I'll be here talking about a slightly sexier topic. Thank you so much for your time.